misled that when you first started your business, you went into it thinking you're going to have more free time. You're going to be making lots of money. You're going to be living the life of your dreams. And you're not. It's just not happening for you. You're working long hours. The money isn't where you thought it would be. And that dream, it's still a dream. Well, today on Make It Click, I am excited to have with me Colleen Biggs. Colleen is a business coach, and she is, now let me get this right, a 2021 top 10 woman business leader of the year. Oh my goodness. So, like, we've got some really good stuff going on here today. Colleen, when we talked before, you said you realized something back before you even started your coaching business, when
Mhm.
you were still in corporate
Yeah.
and you were managing your time the way you were comfortable, and then something changed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So thank you, Christine. It's a pleasure to be on this show with you and talk about this subject because it has changed my life, my productivity. So to share these tips today with your listeners is just incredible, right? We need to give as much advice as we can to others so that they can be as successful with their time. And we all have 24 hours in a day. And back then, I would write down the things that I had to do. And I know a lot of people today that still write things down. The problem back then for me was I was one of the department heads. So whenever anyone wanted to book a meeting with all the department heads, they would invite all of us into the calendar. Then they would cruise the day or week and look to see when is everyone available based on when things were blocked off on their calendar. Well, because I wasn't blocking off my calendar digitally and writing it down, I looked like I was free the entire day, but my schedule was not free the entire day. They just thought it was. So I would have meetings booked over my lunchtime, booked over times I promised clients I would be calling them, booked over a doctor and medical appointments. If I had to leave and take a child to school, anything that I had going on in my life and in my department wasn't being blocked off. And so I started blocking off my time on my digital calendar. Then it was Outlook. So you can use Google, you can use Outlook. There's a lot of different mail providers out there. It works with all of them, I promise you. And apps that we have like Calendly and all these other scheduler apps that are out there, they will also talk to your Outlook and your Google calendars, your Apple calendars, those types of things. So by blocking off the time on my schedule back then, Christine, now I was in control of my time. This is the difference between giving the power of your time away to other people versus taking back the power of your own time and setting your boundaries, which is what I did. And I became more productive because I was able to get the things done that I needed to get done in my day. And I started using my calendar as my task list. So people that look at my calendar today, they immediately want to throw up because they say, that's not freedom. Look at all of the stuff that you do in a day. And I say, well, I chose to do all of that in a day. I plug in when I want to plug in, I plug out when I want to plug out. And then when I'm plugged in, I move the needle on all of my goals and revenue and everything that needs to be done in my business because I'm scheduling it out way ahead of time when I know I need to get it done. So I don't spend Sunday nights planning my week like other people.
Well, and I like something that you had said when we talked previously, that you never get overwhelmed
Mhm.
because every day is planned. You know what you're doing. In fact, I think you said something about you do get a little anxious though if there's an empty space. Does 10 minutes cause anxiety or is 15
It's 30. It's the
30?
30-minute mark that causes anxiety for me. So it's true. It's a joke, but it's also very true. I use my calendar as my task list. So I'll give you an example. Today I have an article due. for a magazine that I've been asked to write in. And I started the article last night because I had a blocked out for 30 minutes to start the article. And then today I have a blocked out time to finish the article. So now I don't have to worry about getting it done. I cannot even think about it until that half hour comes up at 1 o'clock today. Then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to open up the document I started yesterday, do a little research if I want, think about it, and spend my time finishing up writing that article and getting it to them in time. Well, I've been doing this for months. So, how do I remember all these articles that are due? When they tell me about them, I go out in my calendar and I block off the time in advance so that clients can't book with me, consultation calls can't book with me. And if someone says, "Hey, Colleen, are you able to speak on this day at this time?" I can look at my calendar and say, if it's important to me enough, I'll say yes. And then I'll take that hour that I plan to write the article, move it to a different day and time. But you have to be disciplined. And I'm going to say this right now. Professional people are disciplined. If you want to consider yourself an entrepreneur, then you need to act like it. You need to be a professional and you need to be disciplined. You can't allow things that happen during the day to take you off course. My children, I have all my grandchildren that stop by my house. They very much know if we just drop in on grandma during the day, she's probably in her office working because we haven't pre-scheduled anything with her. But if they were to call me today and say, "Hey, mom, could we stop by tomorrow around 3 or 4? Or do you have time to do something with the kids?" Then I would look at my schedule, tell them when I'm available, schedule it in, and that's when I'm free to do it. So that is freedom of time to me. That
Mm.
is freedom. It's so much freedom to do whatever it is I wanna do. I schedule it, and then that's how my day rolls. I just have no worries or concerns, and I'm never spending time planning, which I think is wasted time, if you ask
Mhm,
me.
mhm. Now, so you're scheduling. So what about interruptions that happen to you have no control over, but it is something that you really do have to deal with, as in our first conversation before you got on our call, something was happening in the background and you're like, "But I have to get on this call with Christine." So how do you deal with those interruptions that you have to take?
Yeah, very quickly and quietly. I don't have any young children anymore. They're all married and grown and in their own houses. So I don't have any young children that are calling me and that I need to go pick up sick from school. That's going to happen. Here's the best thing to do when you get interruptions. I really do think the best thing to do, Christine, is if you need to cancel a meeting or two. I mean, I've gotten sick and needed to cancel a day of appointments or 2 days of appointments, I'll contact my assistant, ask her to start reaching out. I'll start reaching out to people and cancel, but we always reschedule them back on my calendar. That's the trick. If you have an interruption that you need to take care of, you take whatever project it was that you were working on in that hour or 2 hours or whatever, and you reschedule it to another day and time so that you don't forget about it. And I
Mhm,
have women that'll say, sometimes I just see it on my schedule, but I don't wanna do it, and then I just let the time pass by and I go do something else, like a load of laundry or go and feed the dog, or I'm serious.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
I ask them, what I want you to ask yourself, why are you avoiding it? Because you're avoiding it.
mhm,
I don't avoid anything on my schedule because everything I do is what I love to do. It's how I designed my business, it's how I designed my life. And I offset the things that I don't like to do when I hire a VA to do things like building newsletters where there's images or creating images on Canva. That's not something I love to do. I love to write newsletters that are personal to my customers, but I do not like to design newsletters or create things in Canva or upload my podcast
mhm,
to the podcast host site. I love to do the interviewing of the podcast and finding the guests on the podcast. So I do what I love, and then I really just give the rest of it away to other people that I can pay because my time is so valuable. I'm doing the money making tasks and my VA is doing the admin tasks that support me so that I can make the money so that I can pay her. And
mhm,
uh and that's how I run my business. I'm very disciplined that way, but I find being disciplined for the short amount of hours that I plug in and plug out I can get a lot done,
Mhm.
a lot done.
So you spoke a little bit about the avoidance thing, but there's also in how you're managing this, it's how our brains work too, and that
Mm.
misnomer of the multitasking and being able to shift from one thing to another and have it working. Can you not taking a lot of time to tell us about the Sarah Blakely story that you told me?
Mhm.
And it's such a good example
Yeah.
of how we all need to be managing our time.
Yeah, I met her at an entrepreneur summit a few years back. And what I loved about what she spoke about on stage was how, when she first started her business, once she got out of the grind and she had staff that was working for her, because she worked out of her apartment for 5 years. I just want everyone to remember that. She worked out of her apartment for 5 years. It wasn't an overnight success. She had friends sitting there helping her package things and mail them out. When she finally had staff, there would be days where they would call her to look at colors and fabrics, and then they'd say, we need you in a sales meeting. And then before you know it, she's running into to interview a possible employee. And she said she was so exhausted day after day after day because her focus had to keep switching from being creative to being a boss to looking at fabrics to over here doing a photo shoot. And she said she was just driving herself crazy. So she decided to start compartmentalizing her days. And she would say, if we're doing any fabrics, or color choices or any of our products, those have to be on Wednesday. Any sales meetings can only be on Tuesdays and Fridays. And so she broke up her week to where she is only focusing her entire day on those specific things so that she can stay in that mode. And multitasking is not something that we should wear a badge proud of. Christine and I switched my schedule and I said, okay, I'm going to work with coaching clients on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I love Tuesdays because I wake up and I might have some other meetings throughout the day, but most of them are all consulting or coaching calls all day. And so I love that because now I get to just do coaching on those days and I get to stay in that mode. Same with my podcast. I record them on specific days, certain times of the month, so that I can be in the mode of interviewing and I can get all those done. And even if it's not a full day, because you're not working at the level of Sarah Blakely, of course, with Spanx, what if you were to block out 4 hours and those 4 hours were the only thing on your schedule that you allowed people to book on your schedule for coaching or
Mhm.
consulting or networking? I love networking too. Make sure you block those out to where you can be in networking mode and then block out follow up time. That's the other thing that most people forget.
Oh, I
Block
know.
out
I hear
follow up.
that all the time. Yes,
Yeah.
and somebody even asked me that question several years ago. I'm at a networking event, and I was talking about, the time blocking and different things. And somebody came up to me and said, "Well, how do I where do I fit in, the follow-up, I don't seem to follow up after networking." And I said, "Well, if you put this event on your calendar, then you're gonna need some follow-up time afterwards, so put that on your calendar too for either the same day or the next day, but you put it on the calendar." To
And
me,
then it
I was like,
clicked.
"Well, duh." It's like
That's what I love about this show because it just clicks, right? Someone's like, I never thought of that. And sometimes they just don't know what they don't know. And then when you tell them, they're like, you made my life so much easier, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's so true, and I discovered that for myself, though, of this shifting of gears of if I start my day with a networking event and say it's,
Mhm.
I'm going live someplace, I come home, it takes me a while, even if I have a schedule of what I need to be working on, it's not real simple of, "Okay, sit down, work on the next thing." You gotta shift those gears. So I've learned to really look at where I'm putting things on my calendars. Phone calls, yes, because
Mhm.
after a call with a client, what happens after that, or a prospect call. Now, what is your what do you suggest for Many business owners out there, coaches, are afraid to block off too much of their calendar to they're thinking, "What if a prospect wants to call me? But I have to be available." And I see so many of these scheduling apps, you go to their calendar, and they've got every hour of the day listed in
I know.
hopes that somebody's gonna book a call with
I
them. I find I that turns me off.
It does
It
me too. If you have that much time, what are you doing in your day? I'm like, are you just sitting around waiting for people to book calls with you? So, when people book on my calendar, they'll say, you're not available for a week or you're not available for, 2 weeks. If you're meeting someone at a networking event and they're not available for a week or two, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be readily available the very next morning to
Mhm,
speak with them. However, if you hold an event, and the goal is for people to schedule calls with you because that's an enrollment call. Then you need to make sure that you haven't booked out the next few days on your schedule packed with projects, right? You could
mhm,
pull those off and move those. So strategically, you need to be aware of when you need to have that time available. But if you look at my schedule, let's say a week or two, for about 2 weeks from now, it's pretty wide open, Christine, other than my regular clients or podcasts that I'm recording, or maybe I have a speaking opportunity that I'm going to be speaking on a summit or a stage. So I'm sharing that because as we get closer to the week, we start filling it up more and more and more. It's just like our personal lives,
mhm,
right? We just start filling them up. So as you look further out, your schedule is wide open and you block off the time that you need. And I tell women this, and I want every listener to hear this. First, block off the time that you need. Block off every morning on what time you need before you get started for exercise, for meditation, for taking children to school, for whatever it is that you need. Block off the morning time so no one can book with you, to where your day doesn't start until you're ready for your day to start. And block off your vacation. Sit down with your husband or spouse or significant other or kids, or if you're single, and look at the year. Where do you want to take vacations? If it's January and you want to go away somewhere in October, block a week on your calendar that your children are on spring break or on fall break, block it off. And then that just keeps it blocked off. And you can always plan it a little bit
mhm,
later. But so many women don't block off holidays like Labor Day. Do you know how many people have
mhm.
booked calls with me on Thanksgiving, Labor Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, and some entrepreneurs will tell me like, "Yeah, well, I work on those holidays." And I'm like, "Well, I have family and a lot of grandkids that are out of school on those days. Those are some of the fun days that we get to go do some fun things like camping." So,
Yeah.
block off the time personally for yourself and know that you have plenty of time during the other days and weeks to get the business done that you need
Mhm,
to, and try to get the same things going in the same days so that you don't have to shift gears so much.
mhm,
And please, 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 my last tip, and I hope this really clicks with people, schedule time to return your emails. You are not at the beck and call of anyone who sends you an email right this second. The sky is not going to fall if you don't return it. I have a 24-hour return policy, always have, always will. And so I return emails in the morning and then I book another time in late in the afternoon. Those are the only times I look at my emails. And trust
mhm.
me when I tell you, you're not going to miss a sale or someone that wants to pay you money if you don't return their email within 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you for that, and even, as far as phone calls go, I I have my limits on how late in the day I will take a phone call.
Yeah.
I got a my phone was ringing last night, I don't know, 9:15. I'm on the East Coast, and it was 9:15, and I knew the person calling. I'm like, "No, I'm not picking
Mm-mm.
it up. I'll deal with that in the morning."
Mhm.
Um, uh, People have to realize, and especially since, we're because of this pandemic, we're connected with people across the globe. You have to, really understand, well, what time zone is the person in, and is it reasonable to expect a response, so
Yeah.
just, yeah, have to do that.
Absolutely. I
Um,
agree with you. Thank you for that, Christine.
Now, so you mentioned though, that you have an assistant, a VA, to help you with things that you don't want to be doing. What about early stage solopreneurs that aren't there yet to be able to have that? How do they get it all done?
Yeah. The way you get it all done in the very beginning stages for the first year and a half when I was running my business before I hired a VA and a business coach and some of the other things that I did very early on, I I did had everything blocked out on my schedule. So I would schedule time on Fridays to write newsletters. That was a down day for me. It's a day that I do not schedule any video calls with people. I don't do networking. So it's a day that I can just sit at my computer in my pajamas, wear no makeup. I don't have to worry about getting ready and I can just work on projects. So I would do uploading of my podcast then. I would do my video clips then. I would do my newsletters then. So I worked on my business and everything I had to get done from an admin side of things on a Friday. And I would knock it all out. And I would be
Mhm.
done early. I'd be done by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and have my day, the rest of my day to myself to do a doctor's appointment or a pedicure or nails or anything like that. So that's how I blocked my time until I got to the point. And here's the other thing I want to remind everyone: we think we need to be making a certain amount of money before, and everyone has their formulas on what it is before you hire someone. This is what I say: doers and VAs, and they are not that expensive to have
Mhm.
an admin assist you hourly to do some work. And that's always what they're paid by hour.
Mhm.
So to find someone to work with you for 5 hours a week, think about what you could do with 5 hours if someone could post on social media or they could do, a newsletter for you or upload some podcasts, things that they can do that you don't have to be the one running all of it. Think of what you could do with 5 hours. And in those 5 hours you have a week, you're telling me you can't sell equal to what they cost? Because I know you can. I know
Mhm.
you can. You can create, money out of thin air. You just come up with an idea, a project, a workshop, or whatever it might be, and you're able to sell it. So it is an excuse, if I'm going to just be blunt and honest, for people that they don't have the money. When you have a lack mindset, you'll never have the money to pay for a coach.
Mhm.
You'll never have the money to pay for any services that are going to assist you in growing your business. The research has proven the only way you can get more time is to buy it. How we buy more time is to duplicate our efforts. The only way to duplicate our efforts is to have another person doing it for us, and automation. So automation is number one. Get automation going in your business, and then another person to assist you is the second thing in line. And every single time my clients I work with, they make more money every time. Every time.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I because there are people out there saying you should not hire a VA until you're at 250 or $300,000, and it's like,
Oh, please.
and I know they're not really saying it's not the whole truth, and I thank you for that clarification, because it is an area I think that is holding many people back. Well, this has been wonderful, Colleen. Is how can people get in touch with you? Is there something you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, the best way to contact me is my website, ColleenBiggs.net. And that's two L's, two E's, and two G's. I tell everybody, ColleenBiggs.net. And when you go out to my website, you'll see that I have a coaching and a community link. And in the coaching link, you're going to find how I work with my clients, all the different ways that people can work with me, as well as when you go to my community, you'll find more about the LEAP community and how you as an individual can get more visibility for you and your business. Because let's face it, the number one rule in business is you have to tell everybody about you. And if you're going to hide in the corner behind your keyboard at your house, like we do today, and
Mhm.
you're never going to come out and be in public and get on podcasts and vlogs and speak on stages and get out there and let us interview you, then you're going to be the world's best kept secret. So you're not going to
Mhm.
make any money, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Colleen, I've so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for being my guest on Make It Click.